Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? This is Ram.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. We still have a minute or two, so we'll get started soon. So for, let's see who was there. Padmaja, Madhavan, MC, Priyanka, and Vijay. Welcome everyone to the SAT SCT webinar. Padmaja, if I recognize you correctly, you actually are in the new SAT course that is starting today, right? Yeah, I recognize your name. Good. Hi, MC. I'm just looking at the chat for those I think whom I'm talking to. So if you have any question anytime once we get started, feel free to type into the chat box, or I will pause at the end of each slide. You can unmute yourself and ask a question as well. You do not need to wait until the end. But for just my own edification to see where each of you or your children are, can you tell me, or either you can type or you can just type into the chat or unmute yourself and tell me which grade is each of you or your children, assuming you're a parent, which grades are your children. That gives you an understanding of where you can accordingly I can address grade specific information. So MC, okay, 8th grade. MC, is that your child? I know Padmaja, you are in 11th grade. Priyanka's daughter going to 10th grade. Okay, what's your name? MC? Karthik, okay. Ramesh, 10th grade. Madhavan's daughter is in 7th grade. Okay, great. Hi, for those of you just joined. There is another Ram apart from me. So Ram, which grade or grades are your children? And same Vijay. Vijay son going to 11th grade. Okay, yeah. No, 11th grade is a important year. Yeah, makes sense, Vijay. I think we got response from everyone except Ram. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Going to 11th grade. Okay. All right. So we have from 7th to 11th grade onwards. Generally, if you are in 11th or 10th grade, you're probably getting pretty serious to take the SAT soon. Those who are in younger grades, typically either they're looking at a PSAT or want to get information in advance, or maybe those who are especially in 7th or 8th grade sometimes trying a Johns Hopkins CTY or a Duke Tip, etc., which have the students take SAT, ACT, or PSAT as above grade test in middle school itself. So I'll address that also a little bit. But with that, but if you have any specific questions, uh, you can type into the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask between the slides. Okay, with that, let me get started. Let me share my screen first. All right, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So agenda-wise today, go to presentation mode. Agenda-wise today, we'll so many of you are new to Maths Academy. I'll give a very quick introduction to Maths Academy. And then the first half of the presentation, we'll talk about the SAT, ACT, and PSAT tests. How do they look like? What subject areas? What types of questions come? How much time for each section? How many questions will be there? How the scoring is done? When can you take? How many times can you take? All those general questions that one would have. And in the second half, we'll talk more about the coaching, what type of courses we offer, which grades are they appropriate for, how long will be the classes, what are the schedules, what are the fees, and where can you get more information, all that good stuff. Okay, with that, let me get started. So Maths Academy is based in Atlanta, Georgia, but today we are a virtual academy. We have students from all across the country. We were founded in 2011, actually, just finished 10 years this summer. Our mission is to help bring the best of every child. Believe that every child has an infinite potential, and our goal really is to tap into that potential and help bring the best out of every child. Okay, with that, jumping right into what are SAT and ACT. I'll probably start more with SAT first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about ACT. But both these tests, as I'm sure most of you know, primarily for the purpose of college admission in the US. Some students also take it for certain talent identification programs, such as Johns Hopkins CTY. CTY stands for Center for Talented Youth. Duke University used to have one called Duke TAPE, Talent Identification Program, which is currently on pause because of the pandemic. Northwestern University in Chicago has a program called CTD, Center for Talent Development. They're basically into identifying talented kids in middle school level, mostly middle school, maybe some elementary, but mostly middle school level. And they have the students, or 7th or 8th grade students actually take SAT or ACT. Or 5th or 6th graders take PSAT tests. Those are not necessarily for everyone. If you are into high school, if you haven't done, don't worry about it. But if you have a child who's in middle school and you want to, and they're doing well in math and English, want to try, that's possible. So we'll talk about primarily for college admission purpose. So this term you will hear a lot. So what College Board is? College Board is a non-profit independent organization. This is based in Princeton, New Jersey. This is the organization that conducts tests such as SAT and PSAT. ACT is different. I'll come there in a second. And if you have any children in high school, or if you are a high schooler, I'm sure you would have encountered AP exams, AP advanced placement in various subjects, right? From math, calculus, statistics, to sciences, biology, physics, chemistry, literature, language, different foreign languages, history, US history, world history, etc. So they offer AP exams in all the subjects, and I'll talk a little bit more about APs later, but it is the same organization, College Board, that conducts those as well. So they are responsible for setting the papers and conducting the test and providing the scores to the universities and colleges who consume the scores. So what are the subject areas in SAT? So it primarily consists of math and English. And within English, there is no reading, or what College Board calls evidence-based reading, and writing, what they call writing and language. There used to be an essay, which was all optional, but now the essay is removed from this year. So there's no essay anymore. And in fact, what is called as writing and language in English part, there is really no actual writing. It is more of writing skills, which they measure through multiple choice questions, mostly grammar type of questions, identifying errors in grammar, sentence style, etc. So it is all of these are multiple choice questions. English, in fact, 100% of them are multiple choice questions. Math are mostly multiple choice. There are a few what they call grid-in questions, or what we would call fill in the blank questions. But instead of filling a blank, they actually have to bubble a grid. So it's always a four-digit number or a fraction or decimal, but only 4 places will be allowed, and the students need to grid. And they're all machine graded. Earlier, when essay was there, essay was the only part that was actually manually graded by human being, but now everything is machine graded. So they're all either multiple choice questions or grid-in questions, where still it can be read by machine reader. You would have all heard about this famous 1600 score in SAT. So 800 is math, and reading and writing combined is 800, for a total of 1600. That is the max score possible. And how does the test itself look? So there are 4 sections in SAT, and they always come in this order in SAT. The first one is always reading, and it comprises of 52 questions, and students get 65 minutes to answer the 52 questions. So there'll be passages, and right below the passage, there'll be some questions related to the passages. And there'll be multiple passages from different parts. Some from literature, some from history, some from science, etc., from different subject areas. And these are fairly dense passages student needs to read and answer. Reading by far is generally considered the hardest within SAT. It's also time intensive. That's why if you see a little bit more than a minute per question. If you look at writing and language, 44 questions and 35 minutes is actually a little bit less than a minute per question. You might wonder why. Because writing and language, once you read the question, it's fairly obvious, right? Obviously, you need to know. If you know, you answer it, you don't get it, right? But in reading is much more intensive process. So there's a passage that the student needs to read. And as I said, these are fairly dense passages. It requires a high amount of concentration. And then the students go to the question. And some questions are like what they call the main area type of question about the whole passage. And the student should be able to answer that particular question right away after reading the passage and then the question. But there'll be some questions that will refer to a particular line number. And there's no way student would remember those details, because there will be minute details like a particular word. What is the meaning of this word in this particular context? You might know the meaning of it, but in that context, it might mean something else. Like there are many words in English that have multiple meanings. So they need to go back and read that particular part again and then come back to the question and answer. So it's a fairly intensive process. Even by very smart students, considered one of the tough sections. Math has two parts. There's one without calculator, section 3, without calculator, and section 4 with calculator. Together 58 questions and 80 minutes between the two sections, but you have to take one section at a time. You cannot go back. Once you're done with one section, you cannot go back. So you do section 3, 20 questions, 25 minutes, it is done. You finish in 25 minutes, then you go to section 4, and you do those 38 questions in about 55 minutes. A total of 3 hours, 3 hours of actual test itself for 154 questions. The actual test time will be much more because one, there will be breaks between each section. And then so this SAT is always on Saturdays, Saturday mornings. The students will be asked to report at 8 o'clock in the morning at the test center. By the way, SAT, you would register yourself, or the student or the parent will help register. There are several test dates. You select the test date and the test center. The test center does not have to be the student's own high school. It could be any nearby school, depending on when you are registering. You may get a seat at a particular location, or you may have to go a little bit farther. Once you do that, you go there on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. The students will be ushered in. They'll be seated in their respective rooms. There'll be multiple rooms, and there'll be one proctor for each room. The proctor is responsible for conducting, making sure that it is all the test is taken. They start roughly around 9 o'clock. It doesn't have to be exactly at 9 because each section is timed separately. And then after each section, the proctor will give the students a short break. By a break, they can go to restroom, or they can drink water, or they can eat any snacks. The total time in the test center could be anywhere up to 5 hours or more. So this is not just a test of your knowledge, skills, but it's also a test of endurance, right? So it's very important that the students are as much prepared mentally and physically as with all the knowledge and skill for the test. So it's highly recommended that the students take good, they get good rest before the test date. Let's say your student is attending a test in November. There's one on the November 6th. So you would register, go to the center on the November 6th, but make sure that the previous 2 nights, I said 2 nights, Thursday night and Friday night, they get good amount of sleep. They can prepare everything. Typically, it takes about 3 months of intensive prep. Some students, younger students, may take the whole long-term preparation. We offer intensive short-term preparation for about 2 to 3 months. We also have a long-term preparation for the whole academic year from August to May, and then the students may take the test next summer. But whatever it is, you prepare in advance. Now you can still prepare during the day on Thursday and Friday, but make sure they get good sleep and rest on those 2 nights. And then Saturday morning, make sure they're well fed. Make sure they get a good breakfast. It's a long test. You don't want them to get tired or hungry. Certainly pack some snacks and water bottles. They might say no, but still give them. They will get tired. And the last thing that you want is the student to go to the test and either get tired or sleepy or hungry in the middle, right? So those are as important as actual preparation itself. Any questions so far? Okay, great. Let's keep going. So now, how does College Board calculate and give this score of 1600 or 800 in math and 800 in English? Because there are no 800 questions, right? If you look at the number of questions in the previous slides, if I go there, go back a little bit, right? English, there are 52 plus 45, 96 questions, and in math, there are 58 questions. So how do they get this 800? So they do what is known as normalization, or they curve the score. This is the famous normal curve or bell curve. Many natural phenomena follow this particular type of what we call statistical distribution. So College Board takes all the students who take that particular test, and within math and within English, they curve their scores, meaning they distribute based on a percentile. So what is a percentile? Those of you who have done math, high school or college math, you understand, but it's not rocket science. Basically what they do is, let's understand median first. This is the midpoint is called the median. It doesn't have to be the mean, it doesn't have to be average score or anything, but it is called the median. Median meaning 50% of the students who took the test got lesser score than you, and 50% got higher score than you. Right? And so you're in the middle of the population. This roughly corresponds to about 500 score. It doesn't have to be exactly, but depending on the level of difficulty, it can vary slightly. And let's say in math, out of the 58 questions, right, if you got all 58 right, you'll be here. You got 800, right? Sometimes you might get a 57 or 56, and you might still get a perfect score of 800. Because if the test is very difficult and nobody got or not many got, you are in the top 1 percentile, you will still get 800. Then depending on what your actual score is, you might fall anywhere here, etc. Right? So roughly about 50% of the students will get 500 or more. Roughly about 50% get less than 500. Now, obviously, your goal is to get as high as possible, but at the same time, it is important to have perspective about SAT or ACT or any test for that matter, right? 800 is our perfect score is not necessarily a good goal for every student. You don't even need 800 or 1600 all the time. So typically, students will have some target colleges, right? So you will identify some target colleges, rich colleges, safe colleges, etc. Make a list. It is generally recommended that the student have a list of at least 6 to 8, maybe more, but at least 6 to 8 colleges. And this whole college application process is a whole different animal by itself, so I don't have the time to go over it now, but maybe some other time. But and by the way, as we teach SAT, we also do informal counseling, not a formal counseling, but the students are welcome to ask those questions during the class. It will be useful for other students as well. Take a 2 hours class, take a little bit of a few minutes. All our coaches are experienced with the college admission process as well, and I'll talk about the coach's profile in a minute. But generally, as you apply for this, you make a list of the colleges. You can go to the college's admissions page. Every college has an admissions page on the website, and they publish some interesting information. For example, they publish what is the median SAT or ACT score for that particular college. Even very selective colleges, they're not looking for all 800s because it's, as you know, the college admission process in this country is not as simple. You get a score and you get a seat. Back in India, I had my education in India. As some of you probably did as well. And if you want to go for an engineering, there is an engineering test. And if you get a certain score, you either got a seat over there or you did not get a seat. There are no other variables. Well, there may be. Nowadays, I think there may be some interview, etc. in some colleges, but generally it's based on the score, just the score. Here, it's much more complex. We have a SAT or ACT score, grades, extracurricular activities, leadership activities, personal essay. The students have to write a personal essay, and they send the school teacher recommendations, so on. There are multiple factors that go into it. So SAT or ACT is one such tool. Obviously, you want to get as high as possible, but at the same time, have a realistic goal. Have a stretch goal, but a realistic goal, right? Because there's always finite amount of time, and how high the score that you get depends on how much time you put. Obviously, you need to get a good preparation. But also, there's a good amount of practice to be done. How much time you put, it goes into that, right? So have a realistic goal, a stretch but realistic goal, and then work towards it. So I got distracted a little bit over there. So by the minimum score is 200, not 0. So within math, College Board gives anywhere between 200 to 800. Similarly, within English, 200 to 800. That's how you get sort of max 1600. Any questions on the how College Board scores? And that is this. So moving on, you might have heard about the PSAT. Sometimes this is a more confusing aspect of the SAT PSAT test. So one is first there are two kinds of PSAT. On the left side, it's sometimes just called, is generally referred as PSAT itself or PSAT. Some people call 1011, PSAT 1011. It is also called NMSQT. I'll come there in a second. Why is it called NMSQT? It's called PSAT 1011 as opposed to PSAT 89 here. Now, if you're a 10th or 11th grader or going to 10th or 11th grader, or some high schools even 9th grade, the schools conduct this test. For these PSATs, you do not need to register directly. Unlike SAT, where you go to College Board website and register, PSAT is always conducted through the school. And it is always in the month of October. Now, last year, 2020, due to pandemic, they changed a little bit. Otherwise, it's always in the month of October, conducted at your child's school, or if you're a student at your school. The school counselors of the school will send an email. There may be a school's its own registration process, but you don't need to go to College Board website and register and all that. So almost every high school in this country conducted for 10th, 11th grades, and many high schools conducted for 9th graders as well. If your high school offers it, please take it. It's a good practice test because now you actually go to a real classroom and with a proctor, you take the test as close to the actual SAT test environment as possible. And the test itself is pretty much similar to SAT. It is the same syllabus in math and English. So it is same syllabus, same types of questions. The test paper is almost exactly same with 4 sections. I will come there in the next slide. And it is the same level of difficulty. So this is a great test as a practice. If it is slightly shorter, as you can see, it's 1520 instead of 1600, 716 math and 716 English, total 1520. Slightly fewer questions, but otherwise same syllabus and same level of difficulty. For this reason, our SAT class caters to both SAT as well as PSAT 1011. So if you have a 10th or 11th grader, right, who is going to take, and they will take a PSAT in the month of October, and if you're attending our SAT course, you don't need separate PSAT preparation, because that same preparation works for PSAT as well as SAT. With the same syllabus, same level of difficulty, everything same. Now, PSAT 8-9, on the other hand, not only is even shorter, it is only 1440, is 720 in math and 720 in English, but also it is a little bit easier. Some of the harder topics are taken out in PSAT 8-9. Math, for example, does not have algebra 2, and even the reading passages are a little bit easier, and so on. So for this reason, we do offer PSAT 8-9 as a separate course. So in our website, when you see PSAT, it's really PSAT 8-9. Generally, 8th and 9th graders take this. Or sometimes, I talked about the Johns Hopkins, CTY, Duke, etc., right? They have 7th or 8th graders take actual SAT itself. It's an above grade test. Not PSAT, but SAT itself. In 5th, 6th graders, they have them take this PSAT 8-9. And some states have certain, like STEM schools, magnet schools, etc. They might have 7th or 8th graders take this as well as an admission to high school for those magnet or special STEM schools. So they're used by some other organizations as an indirect measure for their admissions, but this purpose is mainly for prep. Now, what is NMSQT? If you are 11th grader, there is a special significance to this PSAT that they take in October. NMSQT stands for National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. So based on the score, that is based on the PSAT test 11th grade. If you are 10th or 9th grader and taking this, it is only prep. It has nothing to do with the scholarship. But if you are 11th grader and taking this PSAT, it is also called NMSQT, National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. And based on the score, you will be eligible for certain scholarships. So if you're 11th grader, I think you should start preparing from now. We have some, and typically, if you're 11th grader or 10th grader, some 12th graders, by 12th grade, by the end of 11th grade, you should really finish SAT, but some might take the last chance if they did not get the score that they wanted earlier. They may take SAT in this fall. But this particular, so we have a short time intensive course. There's one batch starting right now, might have another batch soon. So that is a critical one for especially 11th graders and some 10th graders if they want to take the PSAT seriously. That will help both for PSAT in October as well as any SAT this fall or later. I'll pause there for a second. Any questions on PSAT? PSAT 10-11, PSAT 8-9. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, moving on. How does PSAT test look like? So a short table here for the PSAT test format. As you can see, it is pretty much similar to the SAT format. Same 4 sections in same order: reading, writing and language, math without calculator, and math with calculator. Right? The difference is, of course, the length. In PSAT 10-11 or NMSQT, on the yellow table on the left, so instead of 52 questions in reading, in SAT, you only 47 questions, you got 60 minutes. So I got 5 questions less and 5 minutes less. Writing and language is actually same, 44 questions and 35 minutes, same as SAT. Math without calculator, there's 17 questions instead of 20. You still get the same 25 minutes. And here, math with calculator, you got 31 questions instead of 38. You have 45 minutes. A total of 139 questions and 2 hours and 45 minutes. So 15 minutes less. So it's almost pretty much similar to SAT, slightly shorter, 15 minutes less, a few questions less, but otherwise it's pretty similar. Same level of difficulty, same syllabus. PSAT 8-9, as you can see, there are even fewer questions, 42 questions, 55 minutes, and so on. Total 120 questions and 25 minutes. And but as I said, this also takes some of the more difficult topics because it's meant for slightly younger students, whereas this PSAT is same level of syllabus, same syllabus and same level of difficulty, etc. Any questions? No questions? That's great. Typically, when there are no questions, one of two things happens. Either you're all bored and it's not much useful, or you're following everything perfectly and there are no questions. So I hope it is the second, but feel free to ask questions. Going on. ACT. So now let's look at ACT. So ACT is also similar to SAT, but it's slightly different. So from a purpose viewpoint, that all the colleges take SAT and ACT equally well. So in terms of which college take which, either one is totally fine. The difference is really which ones the students like to take. And we'll talk about the differences a little bit after I cover ACT, like sections, scoring, etc. We'll come back and compare between the two. But if so, one difference you see is the scoring methodology and the subjects. Subjects are almost same. You got math, reading, and English. There is a science section in ACT that is not there in SAT. Right? You got math, science, reading, English. The English is equal to the writing and language in SAT. The science here, although it is there in ACT but not in SAT, it is to call it science is slightly misleading. It is more like the reading actually. So they give a passage or a table or a chart that is with scientific information. And there'll be questions below that, and the student needs to answer. So in that respect, it is somewhat similar to reading. Right? SAT also, SAT does not have science, but within reading, they do have science-based passages and questions. So it is somewhat similar to that. Now, if you're good at science, obviously it helps. You can comprehend faster and do better, but it is not really testing the knowledge of science. It is testing your ability to understand and interpret and answer science-based information. Make sense? Now, each of these subject areas, ACT, gives a score of 36. So they also give the same bell curve for each subject. But what they do is they put each bell curve on a max score of 36. So for example, let's say you got, let's say 32 in math. I'm just picking up something, 30 in science, 31 in reading, 33 in English. Just made it up. And your average is, let's say, is 32. By the way, the max score in ACT is the average. It is not the sum, unlike in SAT. So just average the 4. If you get a 32, that's your overall score. They round it up or down to the nearest whole number. That's how ACT score is calculated. When somebody says, I got a 27, I got a 32, I got a 35. This is what they're referring to. Any questions? Good. Doing good so far. How does the ACT test look like? It also has 4 sections, similar to SAT, but the order is slightly different, but always the same order within SAT. All ACT test papers come in the same order. But section 1 is English, or equivalent to writing and language in SAT. There's 75 questions and 45 minutes. Math, second section is always math, 60 questions and 60 minutes. Reading, 40 questions and 35 minutes. And science also 40 questions and 35 minutes. A total of 215 questions and 3 hours and 5 minutes. About the same length. They will also give the breaks, and also it's about the same length overall. But one thing that you may notice is that, let's take any one section. Let's take reading as an example. ACT has 40 questions and 35 minutes, which is a little bit less than a minute per question. If SAT, if you remember, there were 52 questions in reading and you got 65 minutes, which is a little bit more than a minute per question. And the same pattern, math also 1 minute per question here, and SAT has more than 1 minute per question. In the grammar section, English, writing and language, they both have less than a minute per question, but ACT is still much more constrained. So that is one difference between SAT and ACT. ACT is much more time constrained compared to SAT. So if you're a student, or if you are a student, you are very good in time management and always finish on time, maybe ACT is better, right? Because it's all relative scoring, if you remember, right? So you might score better relatively on ACT if you're good with time management. On the other hand, if you tend to run out of time and no time management is a challenge, you're probably better off with SAT. Another difference is SAT is more what they call critical thinking based questions more that test your critical thinking skills, whereas ACT is a little bit more direct questions. They both have some amount of critical thinking questions, some direct questions, but SAT is more so with the critical thinking questions. So that is the second difference. Now the question comes, which one is better for my child, right? Everybody, or me, if you're a student, right? Which should I take, SAT or ACT? So the answer varies from student to student. It depends. If one, you can look at your time management skills, right? I think that's probably the biggest determinant. Second, you may take a practice test of both and decide, or you might actually register just a regular test, one SAT and one SAT at different times, of course. Take both of them and see which one you score better or which one you feel better. And many students actually nowadays do that. Historically speaking, ACT was more popular in the Midwestern states. So if you are from one of the Midwestern states, you are from Iowa, or Illinois, or one of the Midwestern states, you might have heard about ACT more than SAT. If you are from the East Coast or West Coast, you might have heard more of SAT. The reason is more of historical in nature rather than anything else. Because SAT is been there in existence for much longer. It's almost 100 years old. ACT is a little bit younger. And when ACT started by University of Iowa, and it was initially very popular in the Midwest states, and some of the Midwestern states initially used to take just ACT. But today, every college accepts both. So there's really no difference from a college viewpoint. But still, that historical nature still prevails. So the schools often get more communication from ACT if you are Midwest. The students, their friends are more likely to take ACT, so they might want to take ACT in Midwest. Whereas if you are East Coast or West Coast, they probably heard more about SAT. All friends are taking SAT. But I think that's less of a factor. That should be less of a factor. It should be really individually which one you score better. So some students take both at different times, especially if you're 9th or 10th grader and you still have plenty of time, you might try both. If you're in 11th grade, probably I would say stick to one because by the end of 11th grade, you want to finish the tests. And two, typically again at schools, it's much more rigorous. You might be taking more AP classes, you might have more rigorous curriculum in the 11th grade, so you might not have as much time. So stick to one by the time. But if you're 9th or 10th graders, you can try both at different times and see which one you score better. And then now the next question comes, and this is one general question I often get is, how many times can I take SAT or ACT? Now, technically, there is no limit in how many times you can take. However, my recommendation is, I would say 2 to 3 times. 2 times is very normal in any one test. Third time is okay if you want to further improve the scores. Beyond that, it doesn't really help. Right? Obviously, every attempt takes time. Right? There's some fee involved, but there's also more so time. It's much more constrained, and so it takes a lot of resources to prepare and take the test over time. So one pattern is you might take an SAT or ACT once, or SAT once. Let's say you take in October SAT, and maybe or November SAT, and you make a January ACT or something, and see which one you score better, you like better, and then after that, if you want to take one more attempt or any additional attempt, I would recommend just take one of them. Nope, there's no point taking a second attempt for both. Right? By first attempt, you should really know what you're comfortable with, and then take a second one, whichever you like. Or you take one, you got a great score, you don't never need to take again. So that is another question. What is a good time to take SAT? It varies from student to student, but from a college admission process, you can take the test anytime during 9th to 12th grade, anytime during the high school. If you're great with math and English, you prepare and in the 9th grade and you took once and you got the score that you want, you don't need to ever take it again. If you're in 11th grade, probably this will be your last attempt because you want to finish by end of 11th grade. Technically, you can take maybe once in the fall, once next summer, if you want to. But again, all those are individual decision, depends on the student. If you have any specific questions, I can answer now, or I would be happy to answer individually. If for any of you, I'll leave you my contacts here. In fact, let me leave it right now in the chat. I'm typing. Most of you may know my email, but if not, I'm typing my email. I will also give phone number 209-862-8487. You can text me, call me. Texting is better. Say what your name is and what you're looking for, and I'll be happy to chat with you and talk to you if required after that. You can also reach out to our student success manager, Devi. Some of you probably know, you might be receiving her emails. And we have number as well. You can reach out to either Devi or me. We'll be happy to help you with whatever question that you have individually. Okay. So we have both of our contacts. We'll be happy to help you with any questions. Now at this point, let me pause. Any questions on SAT versus ACT? When to take, how many to take, when to prepare?
Hey, Ram,
Pause for a few seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, so regarding SAT versus ACT, right? Can we submit both the scores to the college, or is it like?
I would recommend, so you can, but I would recommend just submit one. So you don't have to submit both, even if you take both the tests. Let's say you take both the tests and you scored better in SAT, then you just submit SAT. You don't have to submit ACT. So
Okay.
that is an individual call you can take. But generally, I mean, there's no restriction in submitting both, but there's no reason to submit both either. So you can just submit whichever you got a better score.
Okay. So even if I take the SAT 3 times, for example, with your case, right? So can I submit whenever I get my best score?
Yep, that's right. Now, some colleges will let you submit just individual scores. Some colleges, all scores will go. However, colleges always consider the highest of the scores. So if you wrote 2 times or 3 times, they take the highest of the scores. Some colleges also take what is known as super score. Not every college takes super score, but some colleges take super score. Super score is basically if you got a higher math score in a SAT in one attempt and a higher English score in a second attempt, they take the higher of the two and add. Now, if the college accepts super score or not will be there on the college admission page, so you can check. But there is only a few colleges, but every college take the highest of the scores. Even if it's not the top.
Is something that you decide which score to send to the colleges, or it is normally sent from the college board?
It is always sent from the college board. You can select. However, some colleges require college board to submit all the scores. Some colleges let you select only the specific score that you want to send. That is dependent on the college.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
And as you said, these scores are valid all through the high school.
All through the high school. You can take any time during the high school, and all of them are valid for college. Now, if you take it before 9th grade, during 8th or 7th grade, because some students take it for Johns Hopkins Citywide, UTIP, etc., those do not count for college admission. In fact, they get wiped out. Those scores will never get sent to the colleges.
Okay.
But anytime during the high school, it's fine.
Okay.
Any other questions? Not moving on. So who uses college? This course we talked about this, I think. So primarily for college admission, certain scholarships also use SAT or ACT scores, either as sole requirement or part of the requirement. That is another use of SAT and ACT scores. Scoring well it can give you more scholarships. Scholarships in this country are very complex again. There are some scholarships are need-based scholarships, meaning it is based on the family's income. Some are called need-blind scholarship, means they're merit scholarship. They're not based on the family's income. And for those, some of those, we saw one NMSQT National Merit Scholarship, for example, is based on the PSAT 11th grade score. But there are many other scholarships which are based on SAT or ACT scores. And we talked about certain talent identification for 7th or 8th graders take SAT or ACT for getting admission to those. Now, so what is the impact of the pandemic? You might have heard that certain colleges made test optional. What does it mean to be test optional? Right. So first in 2020, several tests, SAT and ACT, got canceled. So for those who were applying for college last year, to some extent this year, it's already addressed. By 2021, most tests already are back. But last year's college applicants and some of this year applicants, those who finished 12th grade and going to college now, they were impacted to an extent. And because of that reason, some universities made the test optional, and they made it optional for next year as well. And so it varies from college to college. However, by making it test optional, they probably made it more complex because they did not remove the requirement. They just said it is optional. University of California system was probably the most prominent among them. They're actually considering to introduce their own test instead of SAT or ACT for future, but that is more, they started thinking about it even before the pandemic. And it's more to do with politics and money than anything else, because each test, University of California is the biggest university system in the country, and hundreds of thousands students apply for those. And so you're wondering why all this money, because each student pays, I think, $60–70 as the exam fee. Why pass it to college board and ACT? Why not conduct our own? Right? But it has its own complexities, and it's often, unfortunately for students, it makes more complex because students apply not just for, even if you live in California, you might be applying for UC colleges, but some for other colleges as well. And then you have to take both tests. And, but those are beyond our control. And but most students still need to take because they apply. Students apply for multiple colleges, but also scholarships. Certain scholarships are based on SAT and ACT scores. So unfortunately, there is no clear yes or no answer, but it just complicated the picture a little bit. Any questions? Okay, at this point, I will move on to our courses. Oh, I'll briefly talk about the AP courses, I think, yeah. So I said, so for if you're in high school, or if your child is in high school or going to high school, I'm sure you will come across this advanced placement courses. So the original intent of AP courses was to earn college credits while in high school. So when you take AP course and write the AP exam that's given by college board, you not only complete your high school requirements, but you also earn credits toward college. Now, college in this country, again, comparing back to India where I went my undergrad, is you have 4 years college, you do have to take 4 years. You may take more if you haven't finished your exams, but you have to take all 4 years. In this country, it is not based on the number of years, it is based on the number of credits. Although they say 4-year undergrad degree, you can finish in 3 years or even 2 years if you can, right? If you finished all the credits. And this is where the AP exams come. If you take certain AP courses in high school, you're earning credits towards college, and you don't, and those credits are recognized by, again, certain colleges recognize certain AP courses. Not all colleges recognize all of them, but they let you, I think most universities let you take up 30 credits, carry up to 30 credits from high school to college. So typically the total credits is around 120. It can vary from college to college, major to major. And it's almost like a year completed. And you can either finish college early, or some students take simultaneous MS. And by the time 4 years is done, or maybe with 1 more year or 1 more semester, they might finish MS too. Or somebody might finish 3 years and go and work. You know how expensive is college, right? Credits are very expensive in college, but they are in high school, they're literally free if you can finish them. So that is the significance of AP courses. By the way, if you are taking any tough AP courses and need help, we offer those courses as well. And some colleges also use the number of AP courses that the students have taken as an indirect indication of the course rigor of the student. So the grades are, the high school grades are always seen with respect to the course rigor. If you take more AP courses, it's considered more rigorous. Now, that doesn't mean that you go and take a whole lot of AP courses and kill yourself. So there is a balance. You want to take a challenging course collection, but at the same time, every student is different. You need to take what you can do. Right? Again, those are individual discussions. We'll be happy to chat with any of you who have questions. It varies from student to student. Any questions? So at this point, I'll switch over to the courses. Yep, go ahead, Madhava.
Again here, sorry, quick question.
Yeah.
So who is actually evaluating these AP courses? Is it based on the exam that you take on college board, or is it the teacher who is actually teaching you on the class?
So it's both. If you're taking the AP course, let's say you take AP calculus in high school, there is a course going on at high school. The school has its own exam, all the assignments, homework, final tests, and all that. Based on that, the school gives a grade. There is also a college board AP exam in the month of May. That is on a scale of 1 to 5. So you look at both. And most high schools also, if you are taking an AP course, they give 1 extra bonus point. So for example, if you got a 3.0 in a AP exam, in a high school grade, but you got a 4 out of 5 in college board, that the 3 will be considered as a 4. If you got a 4 out of 4 in the school grade, but you got on a scale of 1 to 5 at College Board, you got 4 or 5, you actually get the 4 will be considered as a 5. That's how the weighted GPA sometimes for many students, they say I got a 4.3 or 4.4. You might wonder, how do they get to 4.3 or 4.4 when the max grade is only 4? That's because AP courses get an extra grade. So to answer your question, yes, both.
So what you get in your high school transcript is the output of what you get in your AP exam that is going to happen in December.
Well, the transcript gives the regular score, and they give 1 bonus point for the if it is AP. In fact, there are 2 things. There is weighted GPA and unweighted GPA. Unweighted GPA is always, it does not have the extra point. The weighted GPA has the extra point. So both will be quoted, both unweighted and weighted.
Yeah. So the number that you get in your transcript is basically the output of the exam. So it is not something evaluated by the teacher.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, what is weighted GPA and non-weighted GPA?
So unweighted GPA is just regular GPA, right? In a 4-year high school, each of the subject you get whatever 3 in 1, 4 in 1, 4 in some, 3 in some, 2 in some. You take an average of all that. That is called unweighted GPA. So when somebody says I got a 3.7 or 3.4 unweighted GPA, just you add up all of them and divide by the total number of courses. Now, the weighted GPA is if you took some AP courses or in some high schools IB courses, and they will count for 1 extra point.
Okay.
So if you got a 4 out of 4 in high school, but you also got a good score in your College Board AP, your 4 counts as a 5.
Oh, okay.
So now if you take all those courses and along with the additional point, your total score might be more than 4.
Okay.
Or that is called weighted GPA.
So weighted GPA only counts when you have AP courses.
That's right. Again, it can vary slightly from school to school. Some schools might give for IB courses, some courses, some private schools might grade differently. Colleges keep track of all the colleges, what is their weighing system is. So,
Okay.
so they're aware, but yeah, generally speaking, yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So at this point, I'll switch over to the courses. I'll mainly talk about SAT, ACT, PSAT courses, but quickly this slide shows all the courses that we do. If you're especially younger students as well, you have elementary and middle school students, we offer a number of other courses. We have SAT, ACT, and PSAT for mainly high school students. Some 7th or 8th graders take for talent identification programs, as I mentioned. But other courses in math, we have 2 courses, Math Genius, which is a critical thinking math, and a Math Core, which is more school type math. We offer both. Critical thinking is more based on, it's going more deeper into math and understanding problem solving. It's a great foundation for SAT math in future. A lot of elementary and middle school students take our Math Genius course, but if they need help with the school math itself, we do. Math Genius is more for students who are already doing well in math and challenge them and give problem solving, etc. If you need help with school math, including high school math, whether it is AP calculus, pre-calculus, algebra, geometry, we offer all those as part of math course, or first grade to 7th, 8th grades, any of those we offer in math core. Similarly, we have an ELA course, which gives a strong foundation in writing and reading. It's again a great foundation for SAT English part. So if you have younger students, elementary and middle school students, Math Genius and Language Genius are great foundation. And ultimately, math and English are the foundation for most other subjects, including SAT, ACT. So for younger students, I would highly recommend those 2. We also offer public speaking, spelling, science, coding courses. All these are offered as a small group courses. But if you prefer one-on-one, we have those one-on-one courses. One-on-one courses are often taken by high school students for AP subjects, etc., because they want more like tutoring. But for most younger students or SAT and ACT, I would recommend small group courses. Although they're group, we still pay individual attention. We keep small group sizes and make it interactive. These are all live interactive classes. But that takes me to probably my next slide on our coaching methodology, especially for SAT, ACT, but most of these principles apply for other courses as well. Within SAT or ACT, we cover all the subject areas: math, reading, writing. In case of ACT, science as well, we cover all the subject areas, all the concepts as well. And test strategies: when to eliminate, when to answer, when to solve the full problem, when to just eliminate answer choices, how to manage time. Practice, lots of practice, including several full tests. Throughout the course, several full tests. We do a initial diagnostic test after the first class, and then we take several tests throughout the course, and then we have the students we track how they're doing. Every class has a homework, either sometimes a full test, sometimes certain sections in a test, or sometimes our own homework based on certain topics, etc., or topics that are taught during the class. All our live interactive classes on Zoom, audio visual, the interaction with the students. We keep small class sizes of 5 to 7 students so that they get focused attention. And all classes are recorded. We use Google Classrooms as our learning management system, LMS, to share all the material as well as the recordings. If the student wants to review a particular class, they can always go back to Google Classroom, get the recording and watch it one more time. If they partially missed a class, the recording is available, but even if they did not miss, they can always go back and review. Any questions on the methodology? Okay, but who are the coaches? We have been doing this for a long time, 10 years now, and we had various types of coaches. I personally monitor all the SAT or ACT courses as well as other courses, but especially I work closely with all the coaches on SAT or ACT. What I found that the best coaches for SAT and ACT or AP courses are most other courses, but especially for test prep. I found that those who went to high school in this country, obviously they got, and relatively recently, not long back, but relatively recently, and got perfect or near perfect scores, and typically doing undergrads at a prestigious universities. They went through the whole process. They went through SAT or ACT. They got good scores. They went through the college admission, whole college admission process, because you always need to look at SAT or ACT in the context of college admission, right? They're not, it's not just preparation. So that's why we also encourage students to talk about any questions on the admission as well, along with the SAT or ACT prep. So you always take that into consideration. So, but then we filter. We take typically top 1% or so of undergrads who have a teaching experience, not just got a good score, but also had good communication skills, articulate well, have the teaching skills, have been teaching several students successfully over the years, highly qualified, but equally important, highly motivated. Because if you are passionate, that passion rubs off on the students. So those who are passionate about teaching, and most important, emotionally connecting with the students. And I found that actually the high school and middle school students connect very well with those who are went to the school here and probably doing undergrads, went through their own similar process as them a few years back. They speak the same Gen Z language, connect and they take them along. So that's coaches and coaching methodology. Any questions? Okay, next. Okay, what if, I think we talked about this. If you have a middle or elementary school, what do you do? Math, English, and science, especially math and English foundation, and those who want to pursue science as well. those are the best foundational blocks if you have elementary or middle school students. If they get this well, they will do well across the board. And sometimes younger students have PSAT 8, 9 option as well. So these are great options for younger students. Any questions? All right. If not, schedules and fees. So we have two types of courses for SAT and ACT. One is intensive short-term coaching. These are typically 3 months, 2 to 3 months. Most general ones are like twice a week for 12 weeks. So there's 24 classes of 2 hours each, 48 hours live classes. Sometimes we may not have that much time. It may be a 2.5 months or a 2 months course. It'll be maybe 2 to 3 times a week. But total duration is the same, 48 hours, 24 classes. Weekends or weekday evenings. One could be weekend, one could be weekday evening, to balance between the two, to give some some gap between the two sessions. As I said, we'll do several full tests and practice. Obviously, all the tests and homework are done outside the class. In the class, classes are live, interactive. The fee for the entire course is $1,080 for the full course, which works out about $22.5 per hour. We're very, we deliberately keep it relatively low and competitive. Typically, if you go to big name brand institutes for a small group course like this, it could be anywhere between $40 to $50 per hour. Individual one-on-one classes usually are $80 to $100 per hour, and sometimes much more than that. But our one-on-one course is about $50 to $55 per hour, but our group class is just $22.5 per hour, or $1,080 for the full course. And by the way, this includes all the material. We provide all the material that is required. You don't need to buy separately. And the schedules are available on the website, but we might start a new batch in another week or so. For those who are taking, say at this time, if you're starting, if you're 11th grader or maybe some 10th graders, a good test to take could be November. So it's about 3 months out. And by the way, that will also help with the PSAT in October. So that's a good one. But if you are a younger student, 9th grader or some 10th graders, we also have a long-term course. We talked about short-term here. Yeah, long-term course. This goes from August to May. It will start in June and a week or so, and this will go until the end of the May, 10 months. So all our academic year, full long-term courses are 10 months. We, for administrative convenience, we break them into 2 semesters, August to December 1 semester and January to May 2nd semester. Again, this class will be once a week for an hour and a half. Again, but the same methodology, we cover all the subject areas, all the concepts, full test, practice outside, but at a slower pace, because younger students, they get to, they have the school, they can balance along with the school. The course fee is $800 per semester, but 2 semesters. So you pay for 1 semester at a time. Again, all the material is included. Hi, Divya, you seem to have just joined. We are about to finish. But by the way, those of you who want to get the slides or a recording of this session, please type your email into the chat box, your email, your name, and your child's grade. So if you can type into the chat box, I will have this emailed out, the presentation as well as the recording of the class emailed out to you. But I also, in the chat, I gave my contacts, mine and Sridevi contacts if you want to talk to us individually. Most of this information is available on our website. I give my contact number, or you can call our general 800 number. But will be available for the next few minutes if there are any questions.
One question, the classes or how many students will be there? Is it one-on-one or a group class?
I mentioned that, right? Group, we have both group classes and one-on-one. Group classes are 5 to 7 students. So the fee mentioned is for group classes. One-on-one, we also offer one-on-one that will be depending on how many classes you take, between $50 to $55 per hour. That is hourly, because now you're taking as a one-on-one. It's more flexible when you start, when you end. But group
Okay.
courses, 5 to 7 students. But we still pay individual attention to all the students.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So if you want to get other additional information, you can, or how to register, you can always write to us at support@mathsacademy.com, but you can go to our website. Let me show you. Go to mathsacademy.com. You can go to our academic year courses. This gives the information about the long-term courses. It talks about SAT, ACT, but all other courses, all the schedules. This is a long-term August to May long-term course, including for SAT, PSAT, and all that is there. And the fees, all the fees, these are per semester fees. There'll be 2 semesters in a year. Now for the intensive courses, you can click on this. Well, ignore the dates, right? We have new batches starting all the time, but this gives the information about the short-term intensive courses. And the current batch that is starting will be finishing until by end of October. So that will be helpful for PSAT in October and SAT in November or later. So all the information is here available. Any other questions? So a couple of you gave type your email. You can do it in the individual personal chat if you want. So in the chat, if you select my name, it will come as a personal information. So if you give your email address and your child's grade and your name, will have the presentation and recording sent out. If not, I'll wait for one more minute. There are no more questions. It's great talking to you. I really enjoyed. I hope you did too. I hope it was informative. But do reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.